Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. I'm Justin. I'll be your host tonight. And with me today are Cody and Brett. Um, so it's a new year. We're going to be covering things we're looking forward to. But before we get to that, let's see what's been going on in our lives over the holidays. Let's start with you, Cody. Oh, I'm
Well,
sorry. Sorry.
you're fine.
Uh,
I'll just do a couple tiny things. One is I mentioned, I think in the last podcast, my family has started watching the DC movies, and we finished up Man of Steel, and we're halfway through Batman versus Superman. And they're definitely more serious than the Marvel movies, which is kind of what I was always told. There's not a lot of humor in them, but they're interesting, and they're seemingly trying to do a lot. The second movie seems to be trying to build their entire universe in just one movie by like dropping Easter eggs and hints and foreshadowing and putting little nuggets in there for other characters that I don't believe we're even going to see for a while yet. But it's been interesting, but it hasn't been bad. So we've been enjoying watching those so far. And then I guess the only other thing I will say that I can think of at the top of my head is I believe previously mentioned on a podcast that we have been trying to learn Japanese as a family. And we went so far as to take the New Year's deal they had to buy the premium Duolingo subscription. So it's like $10 a month or something for all four of us to get like unlimited time on it.
Oh wow.
So we're going to try that for at least through Japan and see how it goes. But I'm very surprised like how much I'm picking up just doing like 10, 15 minutes a day, I would say. Like it's interesting, like the greetings I know and words, some of the intro words I know, and like how to ask questions and like different things like that already, which is way further than I thought I'd be in January here. So yeah, so shout out to learning a language. There's that. How about you, Brett?
I think I mentioned last week that we'd started watching The Mole on Netflix, and we wrapped that up, and it was pretty good. It was a fun ride. We we got to the last three, and I remember because Cody, you mentioned that you said that like you had no idea who the mole was at the end,
Yeah.
and we were in the same boat.
Mm.
Um, out of the three that were left, this person was the one I had the least suspicion of. So it was it was I'm sure a lot of that is just they do it with their editing and stuff, and they do pick and choose what they want to show you, obviously. And um but the one thing that sticks out to me the most from that show is I never, right from the start, never had a sense of what the goal was for the mole. Like, I mean, like what they were trying to do was obvious. Like they're trying to sabotage games and like lose money for the rest of the group. But what was in it for them at the end? If the mole had won, what would they have got? Because I don't think it was ever said. And
Huh.
even at the end, I was like left going, I I don't know. Okay. So,
Yeah, I think they're
but
only there to like wreck the game, but I don't
it
know.
was there was that bit of it was odd, but the rest of the show was enjoyable. The people on it were fun. Um, we also have since that wrapped up, we started watching the Peripheral on Amazon. Um, and it's a show I'd heard the name of many times and heard that it was pretty popular, but hadn't looked into it. Um, and so we started watching that. We're actually I guess we're through 6 of 8 episodes already. Um, and that's been pretty good. I really kind of just enjoy it's like a really kind of it's a futuristic sci-fi thing which often catches my eye right away. And it I'm still coughing. That's not that I just need to get healthy. I wish I could get healthier, but um it like it basically starts out as one thing, like it's like showing you like this is what it is, and then it turns out to be something like quite different, which is a cool twist. Um but yeah, that's been really fun too. So that's what we've been up to.
Nice. On my end, I well, for the holidays, went downstate, saw my family, who most of which I haven't seen in 2, 3 years at this point, thanks COVID. But that was really nice. It was definitely a much needed getaway because you don't quite realize how much you miss some people until you see them again. And yeah, it was just a wonderful week spent, downstage, just reconnecting, touching base, spending time, especially with my dad. Went to see a few movies. Godzilla minus one, which is phenomenal. If it's still in theaters by the time you folks at home are listening to this and you haven't seen it, go see it. It is worth every penny.
It's not as good as Shin Godzilla, though, right?
I think that's a hard one. They're very different films. Um, I see what you did there, though. But no, it is my favorite film of 2023 by far. And
Okay.
not that I saw a ton in theaters, but it was just very well written. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to spoil anything else. Saw The Boy and the Heron. I liked it. I didn't think it made a whole lot of sense in parts, but I liked it. But
That tracks.
yeah. So yeah, that's the good side of things. And then I get back up here, and the building that I work in wasn't on fire, but that's like the best thing I can say. Everyone's sick. People have quit during the time I was gone.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. People are shifting positions, which means everything is all up in the air. It's been a week. Despite being a short week, it's felt like a very long week. Which means I have been looking forward to tonight's episode, though, because it's something that's entirely positive, entirely exciting, I think, for all of us to varying levels, and definitely a bright point in the midst of all of that chaos. So without further ado, that does bring us to the topic, which is our top 10 most anticipated video games for 2024. I almost said 23. I've been doing that a lot lately.
Yeah, I'm sure I will next week.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we've all compiled a list of 10, plus whatever honorable mentions we have lined up as noteworthy. So yeah, do either of you want to take points, or should I just sort of draw straws for us? Anyone really raring to go?
I don't care. I can go first.
Okay, go for it.
So honorable mentions for me. The first one I'm going to mention, I put on the honorable mentions. I had it at my number one, and I moved it all the way down to my honorable mentions because it truthfully doesn't fit the criteria. I don't think the spirit of the episode. But my most anticipated thing of the entire year is going to be whatever is replacing the Nintendo Switch, whether that's called Nintendo Switch 2 or Pro or whatever that's going to be.
The Super Nintendo Switch.
Super Nintendo Switch would be fantastic.
It would.
Strong rumors showing that probably it's going to come out, or at least we're going to see it, if not for sale this year, at least some specs and images of it finally coming up here towards the end of the year. So super excited about that. They really gambled, I think, when they made the first Nintendo Switch, because they kind of cannibalized their own handheld market that they controlled for decades and put it all into this one system, which has been really, really successful for them. So I can't imagine they're going to go back on that design at this point. It's kind of interesting. They've kind of built themselves into like a niche they can't get out of now, because if they split back to console and handheld, I don't know how that would work with the consumer now.
Yeah, seems people would could be upset about that.
Yeah. So that's my number one, but it's not on my list because I didn't think that was quite what we were really looking for here tonight. So I took that off and moved it down to here. My other ones I have just quickly here for honorable mentions. I put Metroid Prime 4 down here, though I've heard zero again this year as last year's list, that it's actually coming out this year. A lot of speculation that it might be like the launch title that might be like the dual generation, like Breath of the Wild was for them with the Wii U and the Switch. So maybe that's what they're holding that for, or maybe they just really don't have it done yet because they had it basically done and scrapped it and started over. So, third one I have here is a game called Songs of Silence. This is a real-time strategy game, which I have not wanted to play a real-time strategy game in a long time, I'll be honest. I always loved like StarCraft, but Age of Empires ruined this entire genre for me with the Chinese and their fucking machine gun crossbows. But this is cool because it's not only real-time strategy, but it's also card-based. So you're playing cards during the battle to have things happen on the battlefield, and
Hmm.
it's a weird genre mashup, which I thought just looked interesting. So strong enough to make my honorable mention, though I hadn't heard of it before today, I'll be honest. And the last one I put on here is an interesting one because I don't know anything at all about the game itself.
Okay.
So supposedly it's about like a girl and I believe a wolf that she befriends, and they grow closer as the game goes on from when he's a cub to when he's older. But this game is called I don't know how you say this. NEVA, is it Neva? Neva? I'm not sure how you say this game.
Huh.
It's made by the same creators as the game Gris, if you've ever seen that before.
Ooh.
Um, find the 2-minute trailer and watch it. It is definitely giving off some Princess Mononoke vibes and damn near brought me to tears with the 2-minute trailer. And from all of the comments I read from people online, they were like, this never had a trailer made me cry before. This trailer just made me cry. Oh my God, I'm crying.
Whoa.
And
Hmm.
couldn't tell you what the game's about, but I was like, "Ooh, if I had that strong of an emotion just to the trailer to this, what could the game be?" So
Wow.
those are my honorable mentions: Nintendo Switch 2, Metroid Prime 4, Songs of Silence, and Neva. I'm not sure how to say the last one, but go watch the trailer for that if you're in the mood for a good tier.
All right. What about you, Brett?
Duke Nukem
Well,
forever.
I do have a few here. So a couple of games that caught my eye, but are nowhere near release date, which is why they're on this part of the list. Although people have speculated like maybe end of 24, but I doubt it. Jurassic Park Survival,
Hmm.
a lot of fun. That's mashing up two of my more favorite things. So essentially it's like takes place immediately after the events of the first movie, and you play a character who was like left behind, like a scientist who would
Hmm.
like was like left behind on the island. So that looks pretty cool.
It's
They
like
are
survival horror with the dinosaurs.
yeah.
That does sound cool, actually.
Mhm. They are remaking, like refurbishing the Metal Gear Solid 3. It's called Metal Gear Solid Delta. And I've been a big fan of Metal Gear games for quite a long time. So when that comes out, I'm sure to play it. Uh, I guess I'll be the first one to bring up Hollow Knight Silk Song. We'll see. That is on my honorable mentions because I've seen no news from that. I have no idea what's going on with that game, but when it does come out, I'll be interested to play it. Um, a game that I was not aware of and discovered while I was researching some stuff called Light No Fire is labeled as a sandbox survival game. It's kind of like more of a brightly colored kind of uh, somewhere between like animated style and it's more of like a friendly looking survival game than like something other typical games. But the tagline that caught my eye was a fantasy planet the size of Earth. Now, I don't know how how that would work out, how they're gonna pull it off, but just that tagline got my eye. Like that would be an enormous map to try and then
Hmm.
manage there. But and the last game I had on here, I actually had in my top 10 for a while, and then I just couldn't see any. There's like hints that it will release in 24, but I honestly I don't see it happening, and that's Marvel's Wolverine game.
Hmm.
It is in development by the same group that has made the last two Spider-Man games, which are fantastic. And so I'm expecting it to be very similar. And obviously Wolverine is like a favorite of a lot of people. So it'd be fun just to play around, run around doing Wolverine stuff. So I'll definitely be keeping my eyes out for that when that comes out.
Okay. Um, Touching on Light No Fire, or Light No Fires, I'm not sure if it's plural or not. That is being developed by the same people who have been working on No Man's Sky for like the past decade.
That's right. Yeah. Yep.
So if they know how to generate massive amounts of content, so hopefully,
That's true.
yeah, hopefully it'll be a bit more distinct than how No Man's Sky was when it first came out. We'll see.
Right.
But yeah, that one does seem interesting. So before I get into mine, I want to lay out a few rules I set for myself. First, it's things that I've seen that have a stated release date of 2024 in some capacity. So there's that. None that say to be announced, just things that are at least penciled in for this year. And second, and something you said actually brought this to mind, no repeats. So we did one of these last year, and some of those games haven't come out yet, and they had their window. I'm not going to list them again because I've already mentioned them. So sorry, Pal World, sorry, Hollow Knight Silksong, etc. But yeah, entirely new list this time around. So with that said, I've got 4 honorable mentions. My first, and in no particular order. First one is called Demon School, slated to release in sometime in the second quarter for PC. This is sort of a JRPG inspired kind of setup with tactical grid-based combat. So not exactly like XCOM, but kind of sort of in that vein, it looks like. Very colorful, yet with a very dark sort of occult storyline to it, it looks like. It popped up on my radar as something different that could be, an interesting exploration of a JRPG style game made by, I think, a Western developer. So that one's kind of interesting looking. Next, Star Wars Outlaws, which is one of the best looking Star Wars things I've seen in a while. Like if you watch the gameplay trailer for this thing, it looks solid. The only reason it's on my honorable mentions is because I went through all of my lists to see what platforms they're going to be coming out on. And this is slated to come out on current gen consoles. So the Xbox Series, PS5, no Switch, unfortunately, but and sort of PC, but through something called Ubisoft Connect. And I'm not installing like another launcher just to play one freaking game. I'm sorry. So unless this thing comes to Steam, sorry, Star Wars, you've still lost me. But that said, if you're okay going through Ubisoft's own proprietary thing, this game looks phenomenal. Where you're playing the sort of outlaw smuggler types, Han Solo sort of characters, where you don't have force powers. You're kind of doing jobs for various factions and trying to avoid the law, avoid pissing too many people off. It looks like it has potential. Let's see. Next one called Blade Chimera. And this is basically imagine Castlevania Symphony of Night, except set in a Japanese cyberpunk future with yokai, Japanese folklore creatures that are the primary enemies. Very cool pixel art, very colorful, nice style. Only reason it's on my honorable mentions is because I'm worried it's playing a little too close to its source material. Like I'm not sure how the gameplay is going to shape up compared to modern Metroidvanias. It does look very much like a Symphony of the Night clone, for better or worse. But still something I'm going to be keeping an eye on. It's coming out on the PC and the Switch. And lastly, in this section, Dragon's Dogma 2, which is only in my honorable mentions because I haven't played the first one. I've heard it's great, just haven't gotten around to trying it. And if the first one is as good as they say, and the second one's just as good or better, it's probably going to be one to watch, but I don't have any direct experience with the series. Fantasy action RPG with a lot of really interesting mechanics, it sounds like. It's coming out on pretty much every major platform except the Switch, it seems like. So, and that's it for me for the honorable mentions. So if we're keeping the same rotation, that means ball goes to you, Cody, for your number 10.
All right, here we go. My number 10 is a game that snuck in right at the end. It's a game that I had seen doing some research on different ones and was like, that's an interesting idea. And then I kind of came back around to it at the end and kind of looked at it again, and it's got an interesting concept to it. So I will say this, there were a few games that reminded me quite a bit of the Ace Attorney games, including some Ace Attorney games themselves that are coming out this year, a new collection. This is not that series, and I did watch a little clip with the developers of this game, but it's called Death Trick Double Blind, or as Joe would say it, Death Trick : Double Blind. And this is you trying to solve, it seems like, a disappearance from a circus, more or less, where you play two characters, not one character, One is a magician, and the other character is a detective with amnesia. And so you have to piece their puzzle pieces together to somehow solve what this mystery basically is. And I really like the Ace Attorney games. I got into those quite a bit, maybe 2-ish years ago. But what bothered me about those games is that you could spend forever looking, and if you just missed one little tiny thing someplace, the story wouldn't progress. Like you have 10 locations and 5 scenes at each location, but you just didn't happen to talk to this one person with this one line of dialogue, and then you missed and you were stuck forever. So the developers in this one said in their little interview that they did that this also uses action points like a board game. So you can choose how to spend your action points for that round, whether you're investigating or questioning someone or searching someplace or whatever it is. When your action points are used up down to 0, then the story will progress regardless of what you managed to accomplish with your time, which I thought was really nice because then it kept it moving. So that's my number 10, Death Trick Double Blind.
Interesting. Okay. I am going to do something crazy. And that because of the potential impending purchase of a Nintendo Switch in our household, I'm going to pick a Nintendo Switch exclusive game on my list.
Wow.
This is craziness. And that for me is Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door.
Oh my God.
So now this is it appears to be a direct remaster of the original from 2004. I to my knowledge, I don't think they're like changing it too much. Maybe they're adding some content. I'm not certain exactly, but this game released 2004 is probably considered possibly the best RPG released on the GameCube. I know it's very highly rated by most everyone, and it's it's basically it's a turn-based combat linear story RPG set in a primarily side-scrolling world. And the art style, as its title suggests, is everything kind of looks like it's in 2D paper cutouts. So it's really kind of just a cool styling, and the story is fun. I know my wife was a big fan of the original Paper Mario, and so for that alone, I would think that we might end up purchasing this ourselves. And looks like it's set to release sometime in like November-ish, though no date is currently set for it. So who knows? Maybe it might push into 25. Who knows? And as I said, this is a Nintendo Switch exclusive, as you might guess.
You're in for a treat
Okay.
with that one. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That
that's on
has,
my
I've probably said on the podcast before, but that game has 2 of my all-time favorite stages of any game. One is a pro wrestling themed entire stage they have, and the other one you're helping a detective penguin on a train murder mystery. It's amazing. Oh my God.
Sounds good.
Nice. Yeah, that one's on my radar too. Didn't make my overall top 10, but it's definitely one I'm looking forward to. So my number 10 is a game called The Plucky Squire, which no solid release date aside from 2024, set to come out on all major platforms. This one, the story seems like it's your standard, you're a little warrior out trying to save the world, or save your friends or something like that. But the real draw of this is the presentation and just the creativity that went into it, because you start off playing in an actual like picture book, and I think it starts as like a top-down Zelda kind of style thing, but then you turn a page and all of a sudden you're in a 2D platformer, or like I think there's a shoot 'em up section at one point. But it goes further than that, because you eventually leave the book and you're walking around on like desktops, and there's coffee cups and whatnot, and it's just a phenomenally creative use of environments and the world, and just a really different take on what a game can be. The only reason it's so low for me is because I'm a little worried that they may have bitten off more than they can chew, because there's so many different styles of gameplay here, like 3D platformers, and
There's a boxing stage.
there's a boxing stage, yeah. So I'm a little worried that that it won't come together into a fully baked, cohesive unit. But if it does, this is going to be just absolutely incredible. But cautiously optimistic, and it's one I'm really curious to see how it progresses. So my number 10, The Plucky Squire.
That was the last game I cut off my honorable mentions before I did the final version. So Good
Nice.
choice. Good choice.
Thanks.
Yeah,
All right.
that does look like it just has a ton of weird variety to it.
Mhm.
Super cool.
But that brings it back to you, I believe.
Okay, my number 9. Get ready for this. It's a sequel, everybody, and
Oh no.
we'll see. This may be telling if it's on Justin's list or not. I don't know. Maybe no, it probably won't be anyway, but maybe it will be because this is the sequel to the game that we're doing for our indie showcase this month, and it is The
Ooh.
Rise of the Golden Idol.
I didn't know it was getting a sequel.
I have played exactly 5 minutes of the first game, The Curse of the Golden Idol, and based on that, I was sold enough to put at number 9, The Rise of the Golden Idol, as my pick
Interesting.
there.
Okay.
So I have not played
Nice.
far into the first game, but essentially you are examining a scene, kind of detective style again, picking up words and locations and other things, and you are filling in more or less like a clue book to try to solve things correctly with words and items that you've discovered by piecing together and kind of like rewriting the story with those words. So it's a puzzler slash investigative game. And I know you're further in the first one than I am. I don't know how much more you've played than that, but I liked the idea enough that I was like, sure, let's give it the number 9 spot tonight. So Rise of
Okay.
the Golden Idol. Every system imaginable.
All right. So number 9 for me, I didn't go with Justin's rule set that he's using. And so
That's fair.
I put on a game here that I had on my list last year as well, and that's Dragon Age Dreadwolf. Um, and honestly, I probably would have put this at like 1 or 2 on my list, but I don't think it's gonna come out this year. I mean, I think it's good. I think it has enough chance that I'll actually put on the list, but I wouldn't like bet on it coming out this year. This is going to be the 4th game in the Dragon Age series, which is a narrative-driven open-world action RPG in a fantasy world setting. Lots of swords, sorcery, monsters, that kind of thing. Previous games have been like a team-based adventure. This game did have like a supposed leak a while back where it's suggesting that maybe they're going to a different style of combat, more like a hack and slash action type thing where you're uh controlling basically just one character. I don't know how much truth there is to that. I don't know that I would enjoy that change, but we'll see where it comes out. And I just really loved all the previous games of here. It's got a really deep character creator, or at least the other ones have had. There's lots of dialogue options, romance options.
Ooh,
And
saucy.
I just it's just a lot of fun. And they are set there, they've scheduled a full reveal this summer, which to me makes that sound like they're planning to have the game basically ready by the middle of summer. And then they're gonna like this big reveal. This is everything, to do with it. And I would imagine they're gonna release have a release date set at that point, which makes me hopeful it'll be like towards the end of the year. This is going to be on PC, PS5, PS4, and Xbox.
Okay. My number 9 is it's in a genre that's near and dear to my heart. Always has been, probably always will be. It's a first-person dungeon crawler called Cryptmaster. Now, this is I've been playing these things since like 1988 with Dungeon Master back on like my Apple IIgs, and yes, I'm old. But there's just something about mapping out an area and finding secrets, solving puzzles, and just making your way deeper and deeper into a dungeon, and eventually getting to the end and doing whatever it is you're trying to do. That just it's my comfort food for video games. And this one, it takes an interesting approach because it's entirely in black and white, which is automatically gives it an interesting graphical flair, and B, it has a text parser, which basically means a lot of what you do is you're typing it in. And the cool thing about it is you're being followed around by this sort of spectral narrator, who I think is just called the Cryptmaster, who he'll comment on everything you type. And I was watching a playthrough of the demo of this on YouTube, and I think the guy running it just typed in like "give up" at one point, and the Cryptmaster's like, please, can we not be over dramatic, or things like that. So he reminds me a lot of like the Gatekeeper from Atmosphere, that old board game. And yeah, just a lot of personality. It looks like it could be really, really fun, really tongue-in-cheek. It's as low as it is because I don't know how robust the text commands are going to be. Like if they really account for a lot of the stuff you can type in, that's gonna be really cool just to experiment with and see what reactions you can get from the narrator. But if they don't go that in depth, it could be really kind of a lackluster approach to this sort of thing. But we'll see what happens. It's neat, great graphical style. I think the Crypt Master himself is rotoscoped, or so very realistic facial animations on him, despite being kind of like desiccated and skeletal. So yeah, looks like it could be a lot of fun. So that is coming out sometime this year on PC. No other platforms announced yet, which makes sense with the typing. So
Yeah,
Right.
it's a good call.
I was just watching a trailer for that in the background here. That does look pretty cool.
yeah.
Okay, my number 8, moving on. P.S. When I joked that The Rise of the Golden Idol was available on all systems, I even found out that it is also on Netflix Mobile coming as well. So it is literally every place.
Nice.
Sorry, Atari fans. Let's move on. Number 8 is not, though. Number 8 is only available on the Nintendo Switch. And this is one that was previewed for us in 2023 in one of their Nintendo Directs that they presented, where you think I, of all people, would know this, but I'm not positive if there has been a game with Princess Peach as the protagonist prior to this that I can really think of, but this is Princess Peach Showtime, where she is invited to a theater, and it looks like kind of an interesting blend of almost like a little bit of platforming, a little bit of almost kind of like Paper Mario elements to this as well. She has a star, I believe she meets at the theater that she can use to have like this ribbon that basically like she turns into like Indiana Jones and like can use the ribbon as like a whip almost. But because she's at the theater, every theater that she goes into has like a different type of play or scene or movie going on. So she's a sword fighter when she goes into one and completely changes like the game dynamics. She's a detective in one that she goes into. She's like a cooker or a baker in another one. She's kung fu in the other one. And then there's some other ones that they have not released yet as far as what else you'll find in the game. But a lot of variety in this one, which I'm kind of excited about. And like a good Mario platformer also just kind of gets me excited. And I just really like that Peach is like the focus of the game. I don't know that she has been. If she has been, it's nothing I'm remembering at the moment here. So,
There,
um,
there, there was Super Princess Peach on the DS,
mm,
where her all of her abilities were emotional powers. Like she could cry and put out fires, or
oh,
get really
wow.
angry, and yeah, it was. I don't think it got a terribly great reception.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
Yeah, so Switch exclusive. This is Princess Peach Showtime. Has a date as well. I forget, it's like May or something. It comes out not too long into the year here.
Yeah.
Maybe March, maybe May, somewhere around there.
All right. At number 8, I have a game that I just discovered last night when I was trying to piece in the last few pieces here of this puzzle. It is called Manor Lords. It is a medieval strategy game. This is directly off of Steam here. Medieval strategy game featuring in-depth city building, large-scale tactical battles, and complex economic and social simulations. I almost said stimulations. That would be weird.
Wayo.
The devs have stated on this that they are prioritizing historical accuracy everywhere
Ooh.
possible. One thing that really caught my eye with this was the city building is gridless, meaning you can basically place buildings anywhere and just kind of rotate them around any way you see fit to like fit the the environment. If you're like on a hillside or something, you can like put in a building here to like fit in this little nook or something. And it's basically in the same kind of style as like Sim City or City Skylines. You basically like assign areas for housing, farming, hunting, and then your citizens like build the buildings. Like you don't some of those like the main like civic buildings, you like build those yourself, and then like the citizens kind of fill in the rest. But they didn't like say specifics, but they basically are saying that in the same way that it's like not on a grid, like they will build based on what you like. You can design these areas in like any kind of shape you want. They're not like rectangular like you've been forced into with previous types of games like that. And so everything just kind of feels a lot more organic. Like everything's built, it just looks really nice. Um, and there's like a really in-depth like economic system, and like real-time price changes depending on like how optimized your supply chains are and things like that. um and then you can like recruit citizens and train them for your militia, and you like occasionally get raided by like other surrounding settlements and things. So it like goes into basically like Age of Empires kind of mode, and you like defend your city. And the visuals in this look like really good. Like in some of they like look near photorealistic. So it caught my eye pretty quick. This has a release date of April 26th. And it's on PC and Xbox consoles.
Okay.
Looks cool.
Let's see. Yeah. I've never been huge into simulation games, but the level of detail and just layers to that one does sound interesting.
Looks like a robust tax collecting system as well, so you could pretend you're Boba Fett.
Exactly.
God
damn it, Disney. You had one job.
Mm-hmm. My number 8 is nowhere near as complex. It's another dungeon crawler, and I need to do a brief little history lesson here. So, this genre is mostly alive and well in Japan right now. They are still making wizardry games, wizardry being like one of the first examples of this genre to come out back in like I think 1978 or something like that. Is venerable. And if for whatever reason it strikes a chord with Japanese audiences to this day, especially when you add cute anime girls to it. And now bear with me. So my number 8 is a game called Dungeon Travelers. It is a translation of a game that's probably at least 10 years old at this point. We got a release of the second game, bizarrely enough, in the West, I think in 2014 on the Vita. And I picked it up just because, well, bear with me. I picked it up not expecting a whole lot, just sort of like a fan servicey sort of thing. And yes, there is that. But the writing was surprisingly entertaining. Like it was genuinely humorous. Just the stuff that happened and the characters and their quips back and forth to each other. Not at all a serious game, but one I really enjoyed, and I never thought we'd actually see any of the rest of the series come west. And this one is being localized and released on Steam on a Valentine's Day, actually, it turns out. So February 14th. If it's translated as well as the second game, I'm really kind of curious about this one because I had a lot of fun with just seeing this world unfold and all the quirky hijinks that happened in the other game. So it is very fan servicey, I'm sure, but it was a solid dungeon crawler, and I don't have any qualms about putting it on my list. That's my number 8, Dungeon Travelers.
Okay, my number 7 is another game I honestly had not even heard of prior to making the list here, but this is something I stumbled across, and it's getting a spot in my top 10 basically because of its mechanics. I don't know if there's an actual plot to the game. I would imagine probably there's some bullshit story about trying to get from point A to point B. I don't really care about the plot of the game, though, because the mechanics of this one are so unique. So this is a game called Paper Trail. And if you haven't seen this yet, it basically makes the screen that you're playing on into a two-dimensional map, which your character exists on. But the kick, if you will, to this one is that you can grab the screen itself and fold it over on itself to make different patterns on the map that you're looking at. So if a guy like needs to cross a stream, you could grab the top right corner of the map and pull it down to like earmark the page. And on the back side of it, there might be the missing cobblestones you need to get across the path. And you may need to do this several times on each of the single screens that you're on, folding different sides and halves in different areas to try to get the character from point A to point B. So I guess this is probably like a play on words here with Paper Trail, but it just looked really different than anything I had seen before. A new mechanic, which I guess I have a lot of these on my list this year, just games that look a lot different than previous things I've played before. And Yeah, this is called Paper Trail, and I think this says it comes out for Switch, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, Android, and more. And I can't get the more
Wow.
to tell me what else there is, but I would have to imagine it would be everything else. So,
Mm,
but
interesting.
yeah, just a cool mechanic, I think.
Yeah, that does sound like fun.
Mhm.
Uh, Number 7 for me is a game that Justin mentioned on his honorable mentions, and this is Dragon's Dogma 2. Now, similar to you, Justin, I never played the first one. I have seen gameplay of it, and I did enjoy what I saw from the gameplay. Just watching it. It looks like a really fun game. As you said, it's a single player narrative driven fantasy action RPG. Um, and it's basically like a small party based adventure, open world, and it has like Dark Souls type boss fights. So like these big epic like monsters that you have to fight. And One of the things that makes it the original game cool was you basically were like able to climb on top of monsters to fight them. So like jump on their back and just like hack at the back of the other back or whatever. And um, so it was just a cool mechanic. I don't think I've ever seen that in any other game before. Um, as a big, very well developed character creation system, um, and it kind of looks like a more realistic, kind of gritty looking game than opposed to like a fantasy setting necessarily. It's like a fantasy world, but it looks it feels more realistic in some ways. It seems to me, anyways. But this does have a release date. It is March 21st, and it's coming out on PC, PS5, and Xbox.
Okay. Yeah, that one, I think I actually did pick up the original Dragon's Dogma for free on the Epic Game Store at one point when they were doing one of their, weekly
Mm,
giveaways. So I should
mm.
really try that at some point. Um, okay, so my number 7 is not a dungeon crawler, but bizarrely, it's actually or being developed by the same studio that is developing Cryptmaster, a studio called Akupara. My number 7 is called Sorry We're Closed. It is ostensibly a survival horror title where the trailer for it doesn't make the story entirely clear, but I think your character has made a pact with a demon, and the time to basically repay your part of the bargain is quickly drawing to a close. And that seems to imply that the demon is just going to take over your mind and your body, and if you continue to exist at all, you're just going to be like a bystander in your own skull. You obviously don't want this to happen, so you're trying to fight back, and it's an interesting setup for a survival horror game, and it's there's another mechanic that actually really struck me and made me put this on my list. So a lot of the game takes place in this sort of other world, like the upside down sort of version of the real world. And there are, of course, things out there trying to kill you. You can fight back in this. It's not a walking simulator. But the cool mechanic is you have an ability to sort of, in a radius around you, see what the real world is like. And you use this to solve some puzzles and, find things that you might not be able to see in the other world. But you can also use it to reveal weak points on the monsters. Because ammo's limited, it's a survival horror game, and if you hit those weak points, you do a whole lot more damage. But the trade-off is you have to let them get really close in order to be able to reveal them. So there's this trade-off of risk reward, and it also looks like an interesting blend of old school like fixed camera angle survival horror. And I think when you're fighting, you can switch to a first person like shooting mode to try and aim better. So there's a lot going on. It looks very different, very interesting, and I hadn't heard about it until like a couple days ago. But I'm glad I stumbled across it because this looks really interesting. No set release date other than 2024 yet, but it is coming, I think, only to PC at this point, but who knows, that might change later on. So number 7, sorry, we're closed.
Okay, cool. It's got some weird graphics.
It does.
Some weird graphics. I see one of the uh, um mechanics for the game is that you can open your third eye. So is that what attracted you to that game? Be honest.
Well, that's the whole like seeing back into the real world kind of thing. So
Sure
yeah.
it is. Sure it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, my number 6 game. This is the one I had referenced earlier that I just threw on here at the last second when I had my list done, and then I don't know how I found this game. It just popped up somehow, and you guys may have seen this one. It's possible. Maybe it's on somebody's list up ahead, or maybe it didn't make a list. But I'm going to share a link there if you want to go to about 2 minutes and 30 seconds or so of the trailer there while I talk about my number 6 game, which is called By Sweet Carol, which I had never even heard of and had my list done. And then this game appeared out of nowhere. So it is hand drawn, or at least it's made to look like an early Disney cartoon.
Oh
It
wow.
is a survival horror game that is set in some sort of a twisted Disney-like universe where the people are drawn very much like they would be in those early Cinderella, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty styles of Disney. I gather later in the trailer there is a monster that should be popping up for you guys somewhere along there if you're watching that. Essentially, you're avoiding the monster. I don't know enough about this to know if he's like a nemesis or something, where like you continually are trying to stay away from this thing, or what. I also like that when you run past things in the world, it also like has pop-ups, it seems like, of where you can interact with the things, which I actually kind of liked, rather than just like Resident Evil running along the wall and spamming like the X button or the A button or something to try to see where I could interact with things. I just saw something on a website while I was waiting for my turn on this one too, that it was there might be some kind of subplot about like it says in the early 1900s, when the phenomenon of the feminist political movement began to shake Britain. So there could be some kind of deeper meaning behind this. I'm not sure, but the art style in this alone, and the idea that they could have like a Disney style survivor thriller is kind of cool. This is coming out for basically everything: PC, Switch, all of the Xboxes, and all of the PlayStation systems as well. And this is called By Sweet Carol. Looks pretty cool.
Yeah, visually that looks incredible.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
I don't know where this came from. Literally, this is one I was like, I'm done with my list. And then this somehow, there was a window open with this game on it. And I was like, what?
Nice.
Interesting.
Yeah, half my bedroom turned black as well. I don't know what's happening, but it's cool.
I will continue just stealing games off of Justin's honorable mention list here. Number 6, Star Wars Outlaws. As he already described it, it's a Star Wars universe game, but it's like it's open world game that what I've seen and it's described from what I've seen is that it's basically like has a Grand Theft Auto gameplay feel to it. And rather than focusing on Jedi and the Force and big space battles, this game kind of explores the seedier side of the galaxy. You're controlling a smuggler named Kay Vess. Her story takes you across multiple planets. She attempts to pull off a score that will set her up for the rest of her life. Ubisoft has been quoted as saying it is, quote, one of the greatest heists the Outer Rim has ever seen. So whatever that means to you, that's what the game is. And timeline wise, this takes place like between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. It seems to have a lot of gameplay kind of mechanics, like I say, just like Grand Theft Auto. Like there's a reputation and like wanted system. So like if you're doing too much crime, you'll end up with like Empire stormtroopers on your butt, like have to defend them off. And then you have to kind of like juggle your standing and your reputation between a bunch of different factions and stuff. So it does look really cool. It's looking like they don't have a set date for this yet, but it's set to come out sometime in the latter half of 24 here for PC, PS5, and Xbox.
Okay.
I gotta jump in because I didn't choose it. Did you guys see the Star Wars game they're putting out for the Switch at the same time? No. It's like the modern systems with the high graphic end, and then like they put another one out for Switch, and I think another system, which I can't think what that'd be now, but and it's like a remake of some god awful Star Wars game. I watched a little bit of the footage of it, and I was
Oh
like, this
no.
looks like literally looks like it was ported from the N64. It was terrible.
Oh, I
It
have
was
not seen
bad.
that, but that is unfortunate. Um, okay, that brings me to my number six. A horror game I hadn't really I stumbled across several of these just within the past week. Had not heard of until just a few days ago, called Still Wakes the Deep, which I've heard is described succinctly as the thing, but on an oil rig. Um, it's where it's like, okay, sure, that's I like the thing, so that's automatically a point or two in my book. But it wasn't until I watched a trailer for this that it really, really kind of caught my eye. I think this is made by the same studio that made the Amnesia games, which isn't really a good thing in my book because those are so much about like, oh, you have to, you can't do anything to fight back. You have to hide, and oh, you're standing in the shadows for 10 seconds. You're going crazy. Where that always just struck me as kind of dumb, but there's something in the atmosphere of this one that is just fantastic. Let me see if I can find the trailer to share with you guys. But there's a sequence in one of these where the main character is going through a flooded area, and you don't see the creatures that he's running from. You don't see any shadows or anything chasing him, but the sounds they're making, the sound design in this game is absolutely incredible. Like they're not exactly voices. They're not at least not a human sort of voice. But it just the sounds they're making remind me of the reanimators from Resident Evil 4, the original. Like that level of holy crap, what am I looking at here? Um,
Yeah, that's some
but
spooky
yeah,
shit.
yeah. So yeah, if you're, I'll send you the trailer I'm looking at right now. So about a minute and a half in, uh, just listen to the stuff going on around him, and I'm looking forward to this one. Even if you can't actively defend yourself, I'm still looking forward to this because hot damn, that's good sound design. So yeah, my number six, Still Wakes the Deep. That is coming out early 2024, so make of that what you will, on all major platforms except for the Switch. And given how this looks graphically, that's not too surprising, but had to throw at least one horror game on there.
This looks fun.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's me. All right.
Yes.
We are halfway through already, believe it or not. Whew, time flies and you're having fun.
Yeah.
Let's keep it going here. My number five is yet another game I hadn't heard of until today. Um, Now I have kind of sort of started to like the Metroidvania genre, with Hollow Knight, and I was not as big of a fan of Bloodstained. I know Dave likes that one better. And we have yet to get back into playing Curse of the Sea Rats, but I really, really like that one so far from it. But this is another Metroidvania that came to me, and it has two things that I don't normally look for in games that I play, and that would be cyberpunk
Hmm.
and Taoism. So this is
Go ahead.
called Nine Souls, SOLS, Nine Souls. It is a very pretty looking game. It is very Asian fantasy inspired, but also mixed with cyberpunk. I noticed from the trailer for this one that it also has unique powers that you can possibly get for your character. There's branching skill sets. I like when they have those types of things added in. This is apparently an entirely hand-drawn game as well, much like my Curse of the Sea Rats game. This was a crowd-funded game apparently originally, but it's preparing for its mass release, I guess, here coming up soon. So it looks really cool, looks really pretty. Animation looks really fluid in this one as well, I'll say. And this is called Nine Souls, SOLS. I'm not positive if that is a sun reference. There is a couple trailers where they're like dropping appear to be like mini stars into something, so I don't know if that's playing on that or what
Mm.
exactly, but it just looks really cool and could be the itch you need to scratch for waiting for Silksong. I don't know, but it's called Nine Souls, and I believe that is also for basically everything.
Cool.
Nice.
Okay. Let's see. Number 5 for me. This is a game called Once Human. And it's another game I was just made aware of just a couple weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it is a multiplayer open world sandbox survival game. It's set in a strange post-apocalyptic future. And basically you can either adventure solo or you can go with friends, and you're basically you're trying to scavenge resources and kind of build your own territory. Has a fairly extensive base building system, which is the kind of like the territory thing. And like the world is filled with like these strange monsters. There's boss fights. And being a multiplayer, you can potentially run into other players as well. Uh, it's they say they have over 100 different guns available in this game.
Yeah.
And apparently it like you can craft and customize things. Like it's a very extensive weapon customizing system. And so basically you can get things to like do whatever you want them to do, more or less. But and another thing I caught just today when I was looking at it, apparently it's supposed to have a PvP like kind of capture the flag type mode built in as well, which sounds like an interesting concept. But it also seems to be like very similar to the game called The Day Before, which released recently and flopped so hard that the studio had to close shop.
Ooh.
So
I followed a bit of that fiasco.
but this looks like it's going to be pretty good. I like I said, I've seen some gameplay and it does look pretty fun. So this is coming out probably third quarter this year, and it is PC only.
Yeah, I'm looking through some screenshots of that. I like the monster designs in this really, really quite a bit. Multiplayer stuff is something I generally kind of shy away from, but I might have to put this one on my radar just because of the visuals and and all that. So yeah. Okay, that brings it back to me for my number 5. That is the Alone in the Dark remake, which
Ooh.
I had forgotten was actually coming out this year until I was doing some digging, and actually releases on March 20th for all systems except for the Switch. But part of me has a bit of remake fatigue, but considering how well certain other survival horror remakes have been, like the Resident Evils, those remasters are just fantastic for the most part. Silent Hill 2, it'll probably look good. I'm not sure how it'll play, but I mean, it has potential. But there has been some good stuff done with reimagining classic survival horror. And looking at just screenshots and clips from this, the creature design, I keep going back to that, but that is very much on point. Very creepy, very sinister, very threatening. And it's a horror game where you actually can try to fight back. That's usually something I appreciate. But yeah, if they do it justice, this could be really, really solid. So again, March 20th, all modern consoles and PC. Sadly, no Switch, but maybe Switch 2. We'll see.
Yeah, that is one that I almost put on my list.
Yeah, I have fond memories of the first one, way back in the day, even though it's janky as hell these days. But
Yeah, it is. Wow, I'm looking at this. This must not be the game I'm thinking of. I was looking at the remake photos and I was like, this is not any at all like I was thinking. And then I just checked out the original, and this is also not thinking. Maybe I'm thinking of like Out of This World or something.
maybe it
But
did have a very polygonal kind of look to it.
this looks just like it's like a mansion or something. Yeah.
The original was, yeah, and like catacombs underneath it, but it was
Okay.
pretty much confined. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I got to do a correction here. Apparently, my number 5 game, Nine Souls, is only available for Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, Windows, and Mac. So going back on that, maybe it could be because it is, as I mentioned, a crowdfunded game, and maybe it is, maybe it's one of those that's been in development forever. So that was like the current system then. I don't know, but just correct that. Okay, my number, what are we up to? 4. Oh yeah, I'm with Justin. I'm getting remake fatigue here. My number 4. Check this one out. Here's a cool idea. The game centers on 13-year-old Ashley Mizuki Robbins, who travels to Blood Edward Island and is in search for her father, Richard Robbins, and the truth behind the mysterious events in her childhood. This is cheating because I'm doing 2 games for 1 here, but this is going to be the collection that is titled Another Code Recollection, and it is a Nintendo Switch exclusive of 2 games, one of which was called Trace Memory originally here in the United States. It had a longer name in Japan. That was originally for the Nintendo DS. And the sequel, which never made it to the West side here, is called Another Code Our Journey into Lost Memories. It's almost so many word gibberish things in its title. Seems like a game Justin would like.
It might be. I'm looking at screenshots right now.
These are 2 puzzle platformers where you're going around the world, essentially, I believe in game 1, trying to determine some mysteries about your father, and I believe the sequel is about finding things out about your mother, if I'm not mistaken. But from what I've seen so far in the trailer and gameplay, it just kind of seems like you're basically traversing the world and trying to solve puzzles that you encounter along the way. It looks pretty fun. It's a DS game. I didn't play, I had a DS, but I only ever played like 5 or 6 games on it, I'll be honest. So I missed a lot of the stuff that came out then, but the fact that we're going to get a 2-for-1 deal with this one is something that's kind of attracting me to this. I believe she's 13 in the first game and 16 in the sequel. 3 years go by. That's as far as I was willing to venture into spoilery territory for tonight's podcast. And as mentioned, this is a Switch exclusive.
Number 4 on my list is Frostpunk 2. Now, the original Frostpunk it was a survival city builder. Is like a post-apocalyptic blizzard-ravaged world. So essentially, the world is all cold, and like now, I think it was like I didn't play it, but barely it was like the setting was coal had also like run out, and like oil is like the only thing left to like keep the world warm, basically. And it has pardon me, has a lot of like typical city building aspects to it, but includes like this narrative side to it that has you making like a lot of like really hard choices for your citizens, and it basically people will die in your city. Like you can't save everyone is like kind of like the underlying tagline to it. And it's like resources are scarce. And you like to build districts within your city that are kind of like geared towards different purposes, like industry or science, things like that. You research new technologies. Apparently, this game has a council that you elect, and then you have to like kind of navigate their varying needs. And the way they describe it is it's not just building a city, but building a society as well. And the first one apparently was very well received, very high marks. And I didn't play it, but I didn't know a lot about it until I saw this and started reading. I was like, oh, that looks like something I would enjoy. So it is set for release in the first half of the year, no set date exactly. And it is only on PC.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard good things about the first one as well, but I haven't really ever sat down and played it. But
anybody else feel like there's more games this year that don't have set dates than ever?
Kind of.
Yeah, I think that's like the trend is just going towards that. Yeah.
Kind of worries me slightly, but
a little bit. Yeah. I mean, a few on my list do have set, actual release windows at least, but yeah, a lot of it's just 2024 or 2024. But let's see, including the one I'm about to talk about right now. So this, my number 4 is Another Crab's Treasure. Now, I love a good Souls-like, but so many of them are very grimdark, very gritty, very serious. Another Crab's Treasure is not. You play a hermit crab who is trying to get his shell back. It was stolen or lost or something. I don't exactly know, but you are fighting various other, underwater denizens, trying to, in your quest, trying to get your home back, using things like, plastic forks and whatever you happen to find trash strewn in the ocean.
Those are dingle hoppers. Come on.
And including your various shells. So whatever you find that you can crawl into, it will give you different abilities. And this is kind of like how you customize your character. They have different there's apparently a lot of different ways to play, and it just looks very colorful, very, very whimsical, and such a drastic change of tone from this kind of genre that I am very much on board to see where this goes. No set date for release, but it appears to be coming to all major platforms, bizarrely enough, except for the PS5. So PC, Switch, Xbox Series, no PS5 that I was able to find, which is strange to me.
Screw those guys.
That's odd. That is one thing. You mentioned just how different this feels or looks, this way being like a Souls-like game. And I mean, you're like it's like all Souls-like games also just look exactly the same as each other. There's like zero difference between them. And that has kind of like gotten under my skin over the years. Like, come on, guys. You can make your game look different and still feel the same. But continue.
Yeah. Oh, that was it for my my number 4. So I think that brings us back to Cody.
All right. Well, ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha.
Ah,
Okay, I lied. The last one was a remake, even after I said that. But this one,
will be
number
different.
3 on my list is also actually a remake. So this is another remake of a game that came out for, you guessed it, the Nintendo 3DS, which I never owned. But this is going to automatically jump near the top of my list for the year because I love this series, and it was always a crime to me that there was an entry I was never able to play. But Nintendo is solving that with this Switch exclusive here. This is Luigi's Mansion 2, Dark Moon, the HD remaster. Luigi's Mansion 1, in my opinion, is a classic. So much so that I went and purchased it off eBay years later and paid GameCube prices for a copy so my kids could play it with me. And Luigi's Mansion 3 for the Switch is equally really, really fun and really well done. And this is the one we were never able to play. So I don't know if they'll play it with me or not, but I will certainly go back and play this one because I never have. But there's just a great balance, I think, in these games as far as exploration / ghost combat. Each of the ghosts always have like a very unique thing for each of the boss ghosts of like how to beat them. Some you have to suck stuff up to throw at them. Some you have to interact with the environment, like open a window to chill it out or cover it with a cloth, or like there's always some unique way they will put stuff in. And they hide so much crap in these games. It's ridiculous. You get devices usually as these games go on where you are able to like get a beep on a screen if there's like a boo hiding somewhere, or like there's treasure chests that are behind paintings that you never took off the wall, or whatever the case is. It's also fun because I don't know, Brett, you ever play any of the Luigi's Mansion games?
I haven't actually.
You can't like destroy walls or anything, but it does have a little bit of blast core feel to it, which I thought you'd appreciate
Okay,
because
yeah.
like you like walk into a room with your vacuum cleaner and just like I'm gonna fuck up everything in this room and find the money. Sometimes you go through mouse holes, sometimes giant gems fall down. Like you never know what's going to happen in these. They're pretty fun. I don't know what the plot of this one is, but looking forward to Luigi's Mansion 2. I don't know if this is actually going to be called Luigi's Mansion 2 or Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, the original title. So whichever one it's going with, that will be my number 3.
And oddly enough, that's the only Luigi's Mansion game I have played because I
Really?
had a 3DS. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
And I enjoyed the heck out of it. So I
Okay.
think you're in for a good time.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Number 3 for me is the third game in a series. It is Little Nightmares 3. I really, both my wife and I really enjoyed the first two. It's a really cool. It's really the kind of atmospheric, kind of side-scrolling platformer, with like kind of like light puzzles and these boss encounters. And what's really cool about these games is they're like, it basically like walking through with it like this world that's kind of like this nightmare, like a child's nightmare kind of situation. And so it's like really kind of cool visuals and just often to like very disturbing kind of stuff. And yeah, but at the same time, there's like very little dialogue. but they're still giving you like you're still getting a good feel of the story and like what's been going, happening in this world. So that always felt like it was just a very good gameplay design just from that perspective. Like you're getting stuff without this dialogue. Um, the third entry here seems to be, basically the same as the first two. One light twist here is that there are two characters in the game, and it has online co-op, so you can play
Oh.
with a friend to control the other character. Or it looks like you can play solo and you just kind of switch between the two characters, kind of like Lost Viking style. So like you can have like send one person off to do one task, and the other guy goes somewhere else to do like a different one, and to get you through these like little puzzle areas. Um, as of yet, I haven't found a set release date for it, but it is confirmed for 24, and looks like this is on everything, including some of the previous gen consoles like PS4 and Xbox One. Their names always confuse me, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Nobody
Same.
fucking knows the Xbox.
uh, okay. Speaking of children's nightmares, my number three is a game that another one I only really stumbled across recently, called Bloomtown, A Different Story. Now this, it kind of looks like Stranger Things if the kids were fighting, the forces of darkness with their imaginary friends. It I think ostensibly is almost like an Eastward or Earthbound style JRPG, but some of the things you get in your party are like a Tyrannosaurus Rex in a mech suit and like a buff corgi that might be a superhero. Like seriously, just look for some of the screenshots of this thing. It is just it's wild. And I really don't know a whole lot about the plot other than there's something really bad going on in the town, and it's up to kids to try and figure out how to stop it. But just the sheer unbridled just imagination on display in this thing has caught my attention, and I am on board with wherever this goes. Beautiful pixel art, just a really unique and character distinctive look and feel to everything, and yeah, for a game I hadn't known existed until earlier this week, yeah, I'm really impressed with what I've seen. This comes out supposedly sometime in the second quarter, for all modern platforms, from what I was able to find. So that is Bloomtown, A Different Story.
I found the buff corgi. That does look fun.
Yeah, it's just I don't know what to expect from this thing, but I look forward to whatever it gives me.
All right, well, now I'm mad because I just had a web page up looking at your game, which brought up another game on the side that I was like, oh, that was a game I was really looking forward to, and I did not include that on my list because I forgot about it altogether. So
Oh no.
that's exciting. But so shout out to Mariachi Legends, the Mexican Day of the Dead Metroidvania game that looked really awesome. Apparently, is
Forgot
on
about that
Nintendo
one too.
Switch and Windows sometime in the 2024 year. So shout out to that game. You probably would have made my list had I seen you earlier. But as it stands, we went from a nightmare to a
A
kid's
remake?
favorite thing possible for my number two game, which is South Park Snow Day.
Mm-mm. Nice.
I didn't know this game existed either. I just was reading about this
Mhm.
recently, and I love the Stick of Truth. I love Fractured Butthole, and I am assuming Snow Day will somehow continue in that vein, though it is multiplayer, which is weird. But super excited about this. I don't think I'd probably let my kids play it with me, even though it's multiplayer. Plus they wouldn't get any of the jokes in it anyway. But if you've played the other games, you kind of, I am assuming, know what you're going to get with this one, or at least I hope, which is kind of like a comedic RPG system, which is I don't know, they're so well done. I know Matt and Trey are both really involved with the creation of these games. And it shows. Like I was super impressed with the first two, like how they were both reverent to the TV show, but also hilarious and a very fair and functioning style of game as well. Like they were genuinely super fun to play. So if it's anything like that, South Park Snow Day will be fantastic. Did not look up what systems that'll be on. So I think it was all when I read though, but just put that out there. South
It
Park
is,
Snow
yes.
Day. Okay, great. That's my number two.
All right. So number two for me moved I don't know where I had it last time, but it's a game I had last year as well.
Oh.
Hook up. This is the second installment of the Final Fantasy VII overhaul, following Final Fantasy VII Remake. This is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Now it looks like it's going to be basically, I'm sure it's exactly the same as the first one, as far as like gameplay style and like, the way it looks and all that other stuff. It's just a continuation of the story. Though it does look like this game has an overworld, whereas the previous game was a bit more linear in its areas. It didn't really give you a lot of like you couldn't explore really that much. So you just had like smallish map things to kind of walk around. But it's just I've loved this story. The first game of this remake did such a great job. Just really did justice to both the story and the characters. There's big epic battles at just great music. I really, really enjoyed that. And so I'm looking forward to this game. It does have a date. It's out February 29th, which is part of why I put it so high up on my list. And the only problem with it is PlayStation exclusive, which means I won't be able to play it for quite a while till they finally port it over to PC, because I'm not planning to buy a PS5 anytime soon. So I don't know when I'll actually play it, but I am looking forward to doing that when it gets here.
This is a remake of the NES game?
No, a remake
PlayStation.
Of the PS1 game.
They made more than one Final Fantasy game?
But it was the Final Fantasy.
I've only ever seen one. I just assumed there only was one. Final Fantasy 1. It's the only Nintendo game I've ever seen.
Okay. My number 2 is also a Japanese game. Surprise, surprise. And interestingly, I think also not coming to PC from what I was able to tell, which is bizarre. But my number 2 is Unicorn Overlord, which, despite the title, looks incredible.
Fucking
it looks
insane
like,
is what it looks like.
yeah, it looks like Ogre Battle made by Vanillaware, and it is made by Vanillaware, but it's been ages since I played an Ogre Battle style game. And if you've never played that, I highly recommend it. It's a tactical strategy RPG about basically not quite empire building, but taking over points on a map, kind of. But your units are arranged on, a grid, like a front line and a back line, and there's a ton of different types of units depending on where you place them. They do different things, and it's just Ogre Battle for the SNES was an incredible game. I still love it to this day. This looks like a reimagining with jaw-dropping. Just absolutely breathtaking pixel graphics, which is Vanillaware's stock and trade. That's what they do. They just make things look beautiful. They made Dragon's Crown. They made Odin Sphere. Just Grim Grimoire. They're all about the beautiful art and compelling gameplay. And this one, as soon as it was announced, it was on my radar. And talking about it now and seeing that it might not be on PC, that reminds me I actually need to do my pre-order. But yeah, this one I am looking forward to like you wouldn't believe, because Vanillaware has never let me down, and this style of gameplay has rarely let me down. So this is one of, if it wasn't for my number 1, this would be the game I'm most looking forward to. But we'll get there in a bit. But number 2, Unicorn Overlord, comes out March 8th for apparently everything but PC. So.
All right. It's the big one. We're up to number 1. I'll just jump right into it. My number 1 is Madden 24. Just kidding. Madden 25. I don't know how they number those things.
It would be 25.
It's like cars.
Madden 26. I don't know if it'll be out this year or not, but looking forward to it. No, normally whatever I have at the top is the one I'm going to spend the most time talking about, but I'll break that trend tonight. My number 1 is Hollow Knight Silksong, if it comes out. Love it. Rumor has it could be coming out about midpoint this year, but nothing confirmed and written in stone anywhere that I've seen. But that was a real surprise to me how much I enjoyed that first one, because I didn't really want to enjoy it, I'll be honest. I don't know why I had a grudge against it, but it's one of those times in life where like I just kind of prejudged something and didn't want to, and then actually played it, and it not only changed my feelings on the matter, but exceeded my expectations for how good it could actually be, with the character design and the level design and the fluidity of the movement. I think really was one of the key things for me in that game. Like I just love good tight controls that make sense when you're playing them, and I'll reward you for like quick twitch reflexes and fighting and jumping or whatnot. And that game had all of it. So I don't know if it'll come out or not this year, but if it does, it's Hollow Knight Silksong #1 for me. And if not, then everything else shifts up one, and Mariachi Legends is number 10. Yay!
Oh.
Nice. All right, here we go. Number 1 is a game that just popped onto my radar just about 2 weeks ago, I guess. I feel like I probably had seen it previously and just forgot about it or something, or didn't realize it was coming out. But as Cody just has number 2, it is South Park Snow Day. This does like a lot of fun. I actually didn't play through a Stick of Truth or Fractured Butthole myself, but I've seen both of them played, and they, just like Cody said, just very, very well done. It's like watching the show, like
Yeah.
right down to everything. But the game itself is just very well done. It's an actually great RPG, and the humor is great. Just the way the characters are made is awesome. And what I don't know about this game is really what kind of game it is. Like I haven't been able to figure out if it's another kind of RPG type game, if there's like a solo story mode with a narrative to it. There appears to be some sort of narrative from the trailers that I've seen.
Yeah.
But it's described as a co-op multiplayer, or it has online gameplay, so you can play with up to 3 friends, or you can essentially have like 3 computer controlled bots on your team. So like I said, a team of 4 characters, and it specifically mentions matchmaking on their website, which to me jumps out as some sort of round based mode, like a capture the flag possibly, or maybe even a battle royale. I don't know what this game is. But being how awesome the previous 2 were, and it's set in like the exact same kind of like gameplay setting. So it's like the kids are role playing as various like fantasy superhero characters, and they're like having this giant battle against each other. So I imagine it's going to be a lot of fun. The art style is an interesting choice because they're going to like this full 3D animation, which is a little interesting since obviously that's like a departure from how the show looks and how the previous games looked. But I assume it was like they didn't have a choice because from the trailers, it's obvious this is a 3D world. Like you walk around all over the place and like walk around these maps and things. So it's not like you could do that in like the more 2D animation of the previous stuff. But
Yeah.
I'm really interested to see what this game is. It does have a set date, is March 26th, and it is it's on pardon me, PC, PS5, Xbox, and the Switch. So
Nice. Okay. Not surprised that none of my top 2 were even on your guys' radar, but I'm okay with that. And especially with my number 1, which is made by the same team, a lot of the same people who worked on modern Persona games, Shin Megami Tensei, which are 2 of my favorite RPG series of all time.
Bless you.
And it's their first original IP. This is Metaphor ReFantasia, coming out sometime this year for everything but the Switch. It is their attempt at a fantasy RPG. I don't know much more about it. I don't want to know much more about it heading in. I've seen a trailer, some screenshots. There's warring nations. There's like airships. There's fantastic creature designs. The more blind I go into this, the better. But just knowing the team that's working on it is enough to get me excited as hell. Just because they've always produced good, solid material. You'll probably end up fighting a god at some point. That usually seems to happen in these games, but it's usually really interesting takes on relationships between characters and settings, and just how a story develops, and how allegiances shift, and people betray one another and whatnot. The pedigree behind this is just, it's stellar, and I cannot wait for an actual release date for this rather than just 2024, because all I need to know is like who's behind it, and I am automatically on board. It's the way some people are with like Hideo Kojima, or major developers like that, where the name is all you need. I know this is something I'm going to love. I know it's something I'm probably going to sink 120 hours into, and I can't wait. Just because I've had such a good time with their other projects in the past. So if you haven't played a Persona game or a Shin Megami Tensei game in the past, they're good, difficult JRPGs with usually very interesting characters, very interesting settings. If you're just looking for something if you like RPGs and you're looking for something that I can almost guarantee is going to be a good and memorable time, this should be on your radar. This is Metaphor ReFantasio, coming out sometime this year for everything but the Switch.
You and your weird named games, I tell you.
Yeah. Oh, there were stranger ones I could have put on there, but
yeah.
I know 2023 was just an absolute blockbuster year for games. So I'm kind of okay with waiting for some of these to come out until later, just because there was so much good stuff that came out in 2023 that I haven't caught up with it all.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, the when we started doing these lists, I was actually struggling to put games on my list, because it felt like it was a slow, potentially a slow year for games. Now the games I end up with on my list, I am generally interested in. I did find them, but I'm also kind of okay with it is a bit of a slow year, because I also have games I want to catch up on myself. So
yeah, I'll drink to that. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be quite as stellar of a year. I don't know how it could be, but that's not inherently a bad thing. And I think collectively, we've gotten several dozen really interesting titles that I think I know I'm going to be checking out some of the ones you listed, and hopefully, dear listeners, we've put some games you might not have known about on your radar too. That said, any final thoughts before we do our traditional closeouts at this point?
No, not really. It's, at least for the Switch, I feel like it's less AAA titles than normal. There's like a Mario Donkey Kong game I didn't put on there, and I think there might have been one more that didn't make my list. But like you guys said, I'm kind of okay with that, because I feel like my backlog is actually really big at this point. I need to pare through some of that stuff. So I think I just counted, I think 9 of my 13 listed here are indie games. So it seems like if I stick with that, it's gonna be the year of the indie game for me. So
Nice. All right. So I think that just about wraps it up. But I would be remiss if I didn't do our now customary rant option. And Cody,
damn it.
for a lot of these, I know between Brett and I, we've had a bunch that were for everything but the Switch, everything but the Switch, everything but the Switch, and I'm going to give you 20 seconds to rant, get it off your chest about how much you're going to laugh in people's faces if the Switch 2 just ends up being an incredible, like, a powerhouse of a machine that blows away every expectation, and is just able to run everything flawlessly. It's 60 frames per second, 4K, whatever.
60, 120.
There we go. So I know this has been a real chestnut between all of us. Like, we rag on the Switch a lot. This is your chance to swing back. So take it away.
Well, that's the best part here. I'm just kidding. No, this is if that happened, if the Switch came out with some kind of super powerful processor that could handle all these games, it would really be interesting to see how the world would react to it, because I don't know what Nintendo would do. Would they actually create like graphically pressed games that are like pushing the boundaries of what we can do, or would they continue to kind of play it safe with their cutesy animation stuff for a lot of the stuff? That'd be interesting to see. But yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be super cool if it happened, that's for sure. There was time, Legend Tell, a long time ago when Nintendo had the best graphics. It was a long time ago, but there was a time when that was the case. So maybe it'll get back to that, but I don't think that's where that's going to end up at. But maybe. But
Yeah.
maybe.
But what if it ends up being the Virtual Boy 2, the Virtual Man?
That is where we hope that Nintendo has enough cash left in their stock somewhere that they don't completely collapse if they put out another dud here and it sinks the system. I think they'll be okay, but I thought the Virtual Boy actually was kind of an interesting idea. I only played it once or twice. I never had one, but other than, forcing your eyes to be subjected to that terrible red lighting
Oh
an
God.
inch away from your face. I mean, other than that, it was really, suck it, Oculus. This is what really it is right here. You think that's good. You haven't played tennis with Mario in the red and black zone. Let me tell you, that's where it's at right there. So I hope it is. I hope the Switch 2 has a mysterious option that you have to put one of the controller ends in your butthole just to fuck all you in the ass. Nintendo wins in the end.
There's the salt I was waiting for.
Be like the South Park episode where they find out you can drive the gyro thing with just your hands if you want to. And he's, well, why the hell do you want to do that, Well, sure.
All right. Well, on that delightful note, I think that's it wraps up another episode, and I hope you all enjoyed, and we will see you next time. Have a good night, everyone.
Go watch the Neva trailer if you want a good cry. Bye, everybody.
See ya.
Bye.